What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today is going to be day 11, and happy Thanksgiving to all of you guys that celebrate. Hope you guys are having a good vacation, maybe from work, or just enjoying time with the family, or just eating food. But let's start the video off here. We are in the straddle with queen 4 offsuit, and we see a flop. Nobody raised it up, and we hit a queen on the flop, so we decide to bet for 19. And our opponent doesn't like his hand that much, so we are going to scoop up a small pot here to start. So good start there, already up $26. The next hand that we have here, we are going to have 6-4 in the straddle. And we are going to wait for it to get around to us. Opponent's going to think it over. And once it gets to us, it's going to be raised to 16. This is only 2 times the bet. Probably not a hand that I should call with, but for some reason I just decided to call with it here. And we hit a 4 on the flop, so we have bottom pair with a bad kicker. And he's going to bet 17, and we're going to decide to call. When the 9 comes in on the turn, we just don't think that he has a 9. And if he had an 8, he probably would have bet. So we decide to stab at it on the river. And we get called, and we find out the bad news that he has pocket 7. So probably a bad play there from us. And that is why you don't play those kind of hands, even for just $8 more, because we just lost close to $100, maybe $80 there on that. So that's a pretty bad play from us there on just a second-hand plate of the day. Then we're going to pick up 7-4 suited in the big blind here, and the small blind is going to raise it to 24. Again, maybe a hand that we probably shouldn't call with, but we are going to decide to, and we're going to go 3 ways to a flop of 8, 8, 9. The small blind is going to check it over here. We're going to check it, and then the player behind us is going to think about it for a second and check as well. So we're going to see a free turn here. It's going to be a jack. Doesn't improve us. Small blind's going to check. I'm going to check as we don't really have anything, no equity really. And then the river is going to come, and it is a king, and we don't improve at all. The small blind's going to lead here for 25, and we're just going to lay it down, and he's going to take it there. Here we are in middle position with Jack 8 suited. The player to the right of us is going to raise to 22, and we are going to opt for a call here. Maybe not the best call here, but we are in position, and then everybody's going to fold behind us. But this player goes all in, so we don't get to see the flop. Maybe it was a good call, maybe it was a bad call, but he goes all in. We can't call there. A few hands later, we pick up pocket 10s in the mandatory straddle, and the player to the left of us is going to raise it to 24. We don't want to just call for 24. There's a lot of cards on the flop that can come that we don't like to see, and we also want to get out his hands that he's raising with that are just marginal. So we're going to raise it up to 72 and see what he does, and after a couple seconds of thinking, he is going to decide to raise it back. When he raises to 200, it's a weird sizing, so I decide to go for a call and proceed with caution. When the flop comes Jack, Jack 6, we just decide to check it over, see what he does here, and he is going to bet 106. Kind of smaller sizing compared to the pot, about 1/4 pot, so we just decide to jam it. If he has an overpair, then we're just screwed, and that is what he has, is an overpair. So not really what we wanted to see there, and we lose 800 pretty quickly on the session, only being about 2 orbits into this. So time to battle back, and we are in the small blind here with King 8 suited. Going against just the big blind and the straddle, I decided to raise it to 24, hoping that I could just maybe scoop this up or maybe just get one caller and see a flop and maybe just bluff him off of it. But he's got other plans. He's going to raise to 72, and we are going to think it over and make a pretty bad call here and call 72. Just not a call that is profitable. I think it was a little tilted from the hand from earlier. Again, I'm working on that, and I know this was just a terrible call, so I checked him on the flop, and he's going to stab for 60, and we just lay it down. A couple hands later, we are in late position here. We have ace of spades, 6 of diamonds, and when it gets to us, being where we are going to choose to raise it up to 24. We get the button to fold, so now we're in position for the rest of the hand, and we get one caller. The flop's going to come ace high, which we like to see. Even with the 6 kicker, we are still going to bet here. So we bet for 35, and our opponent is going to think it over, and after a couple seconds, he is going to call. When a king comes in on the turn, we don't like it. brings in another draw. It completes the straight draw if he had queen jack. So we decide to check it back once he checks it to us. And the river is a 9 of spades. Again, bringing in another draw. If he had maybe 6-7 or jack 7 or something like that. So we decide to bet for 70. Maybe get some thin value out of a hand that's worse than ours. And our opponent is going to jam it all in, exactly what we didn't want to see. Now we're in a pretty bad spot, and there's not really much for us to do with top pair with a really bad kicker. So kind of wish I just checked it back there just to go to showdown, but our opponent just makes a good play, and he goes all in and makes us fold. Again, we don't know what he had there. We could have had the best hand, but we just can't call for that kind of pricing. A few hands later, we get 10-6 of diamonds, and we're going to raise it up to 24. This player on the button is going to fold, and the player behind us folds, so we're going to be in position for the rest of the hand, which we like to see. Our opponent's going to think it over here, and they are going to decide to call, and we are going to see a flop. So heads up action here, and we are going to see a flop of 7 ace deuce. No diamonds, not really much for us to do. We don't want to c-bet here really too much because we don't have a lot of equity to draw out to something, so we just check it. And our opponent's going to check on the turn, and we're just going to check again. And when the river comes another ace and he bets for 24, we're just going to lay it down. Not really much for us to do there. Could have maybe stabbed at it, maybe got him to fold earlier, but we didn't have a lot of equity to draw out or really get anything going there if he did call, so we don't want to bloat the pot when we don't have much. Then here we are with ace-jack on the button, and our opponent in the under the gun +2 is going to raise to 16. We decide to raise to 48, and everybody's going to fold, so we will get a small pot there, which is good. And moving on to the next hand here, we have ace-10 offsuit, and we are in middle position here. We are going to think about calling, but we are going to decide to raise here. Sometimes in middle position I like to call just because playing on this online format, a lot of players, they like to re-raise. So sometimes when I raise to 24 here, I'll get re-raised a lot. And then we're kind of in a tricky spot because some players just do that just to try to scoop up the dead money and get everybody to fold. And some players do that with a really good hand. So it can be a difficult situation that we can be in sometimes, but not here. Everybody's going to fold, and we are going to scoop up another small pot there, which we like to see. The next hand here, we get ace-jack offsuit, and we are in the small blind. A couple players are going to fold, and when it gets to the button, he is going to think it over, and he is ultimately going to raise. And then we are poised with the decision here of whether to raise or call, being out of position in the small blind. I thought about it for a little while. I only have 583, so if we raise, we could be putting ourselves in a tricky spot if we don't hit anything. So we just decide to call here and hope to see a good flop for us. So we call. The big blind and the straddle are going to fold. We don't flop a pair, but we do flop a gut shot to the 10. So we have a straight draw, and when our opponent goes small and he just bets 22, we're just going to call and proceed. We're going to check again on the turn when it brings in a queen, pairs the board, and see what our opponent does here. He is going to think for a couple of seconds, and he's going to check it back. When a queen comes in on the river, I think that we might be good here with just ace high. So I think about betting, but ultimately I just check and see what our opponent does, and he's going to check it back, and we are going to win that with just ace high, so we were good there. Then we're going to pick up the same exact hand, ace-jack offsuit, except for this time we are in late position here, and it gets around to us with no raise, so we're going to raise it up to 24. The button's going to decide to call, so we are out of position for the rest of the hand. When it comes king high, we're just going to proceed, and we're going to c-bet. We can draw out to some stuff, and he could also not have a pair and just fold it here. So we're going to bet 39, and like I said, he is just going to fold it out. So that's why you c-bet sometimes when you have a pretty good hand, because if they don't hit a pair or they don't hit something that they like, then most of the time they are going to just fold. Now here we are again in later position, and we have ace-deuce suited. We have spades here, and we are going to just call here. Could have gone for a raise, but maybe somebody else will raise it up, and even if they don't, we'll still be happy with seeing a flop here. The button is going to raise to 40 there. and our opponents in between are going to think, and they are going to lay it down. So then when it gets back to us, we are poised with the decision here of what to do, and we don't really want to raise this, so we just call here hoping for a good flop. That is not what we get when it comes 5, 6, 7 rainbow. We didn't hit a pair. We don't have much equity to draw. We got a backdoor spade draw. Maybe we hit an ace on the turn or something. Our opponent's going to bet for 40, so same bet that he did pre-flop, and we are going to think it over, and we are going to raise here. I just don't really know what this opponent's trying to do. If he has an overpair, then he'll probably call, and if he doesn't, then he'll probably fold. I don't think that he'll hit a straight a lot on this. And then when the jack comes in on the turn and we improve to 2 spades, we got 1 more spade to hit the nut flush. We're just going to continue betting, and we see that we're putting him in a tough spot. Then the river comes an ace, so not what we wanted. We were hoping for a spade, but we hit top pair, and then we just fire off the rest of our stack here. And our opponent's in the blender. I don't know. After looking back at it here, maybe he had queens. Maybe he had some kind of pair like 10s or something. But we get the bet in there on the river, and we were value betting with our top pair, and he folds. So we scoop up a nice pot. We get a little bit of our money back, and we were in for 800 here. So we are up about 258, but we did lose that 800 earlier in the session, so we're still down about 6. Then when we get queens here, we're loving life. We raise it up to 24, hoping that maybe somebody wants to play with us, and everybody's going to think, and they're going to fold until it gets around to the mandatory straddle, and he is going to call. When it comes 3 hearts on the flop and he checks to us, we don't exactly love it, but we got to bet here, and he's going to lay it down. So maybe a sticky situation there if he calls, and we'd have to maneuver differently, but when he folds, that's just pretty good for us. About best case scenario there, because we don't really have to worry about the flush or worry about anything else. So the very next hand, we are going to have 6-9 suited of clubs in the mandatory straddle ourselves, and the small blind is going to think, and he's going to raise to 20. When he raises to 20 here, we are in position, so we are just going to call here, especially when the player in between us calls. $60, maybe we'll flop some magic. We don't really flop much. There's 1 club on the board, so we got backdoor draws. We do have 2 overcards to the board, so maybe we could hit something. So we decide to call. When a club comes in on the turn, we like it, but we don't have much. We don't really want to get the pot too big, so we just bet for a smaller sizing of 58, and he calls pretty quickly. So then when he checks on the river, we're just going to check it back and give up. And we find the good news that he had 6-7 for a missed straight draw, and maybe he was hoping we bet at it there, and then he could bluff us off of it, or maybe he was thinking if we bet at it, he would just fold. But we go for the check, and we win with a 9 high, which is something that's not going to happen very often. So we win a decent-sized pot there. And a couple hands later, we are on the button with Jack-10 offsuit. The player to the right of us is going to raise to 22, and we are just going to call here. This is maybe a hand that you don't really want to call with too much, especially with action behind you, because somebody could raise like they did here, and then you really have nothing to do other than just fold. This is maybe a hand that you want to call with when you are last in the action, and there's not really much for us to do other than just fold here. We can't proceed for that much with a marginal hand like that. Then here we are in late position. We have ace-10 offsuit, and we are going to raise it up. We're going to choose a sizing of 24, 3 times the straddle size. Pretty common for this game. And the players behind us that would have position on us are going to fold. The small blind's going to choose to raise to 96 here, which is an interesting spot. We have a mid-tier hand, and we are in position. And since we're in position, we're just going to choose to call. The flop comes king high with 2 hearts, and we don't really like it. There's not it's not a good flop for us here, and our opponent's going to check, and when he checks, it really shows weakness here, so we are going to choose to stab at it, which looking back is not the right play. We should just check and try to improve on the turn, because when we do stab at it, our opponent's going to think it over, and he is going to go for a raise here, and then really not much we can do. We could try to raise it back. We could go all in. If we call, there's not really much equity for us. So we decided to go for the fold here, and our bet did not work. So Maybe if we checked it there, we could have improved on the turn, but in the retrospect, I don't really know what we're doing there, betting 110. So here we are in the under the gun +2, and we have 4-8 of clubs. And as we wait for it to get around to us, this is a hand where we might see a flop if they raise it up to 24. Maybe if they raise it up to a medium sizing here. This guy goes kind of bigger here. He goes 40, and there's 84 in the pot, so we're getting decent odds to call, and we decide to call here. We are in position too, with that player being in the small blind. When he bets so small on the flop, he bets for 12. We are going to call, and then we're going to check the turn. And when he checks the river, we're just going to check it back. Probably could have got away with a bluff there. I'm not really sure what I was doing, but I didn't want to bloat the pot. I didn't really think that I could win that hand even if we did go for a bluff. I don't know if he would have called. He ended up having pocket 9, so he's going to take that one down. And that's probably a spot that I should have just folded pre-flop. 40 is a lot for a hand like 4-8, but sometimes you can flop something good and they won't see it there because it's really a hand that is not a hand you're supposed to call with a lot. So the next hand, we have ace-5 offsuit, and we are going to be in the small blind here. The button's going to choose to raise it to 20, and then the straddle player is going to raise it up to 100. We don't like this. We're out of position. We got a weak ace, so we are just going to lay it down. Here we are in late position. We have queen 10 offsuit, and this is a hand that we would like to play. We don't want to play for too much here, and we are just going to proceed with caution. This player is going to think it over, and he's going to ultimately fold. So when it gets to us, it's still 8, so we're going to raise it up to 24. Maybe we could scoop up the dead money, maybe not. And I think that's what this player was thinking is, hey, this guy's not going to scoop up the dead money. Maybe he's just betting. So he raises to 120. And since I was thinking that, I decided to go for a unconventional raise here to 360, maybe trying to get him to fold and then actually collecting the dead money. He's going to jam it all in here, and we are just shaking our heads at ourselves right now saying, wow, that was a bad play. We picked the wrong spot there. We picked the wrong timing to try to do that, and we end up losing 360 when we don't even get to see a flop with the hand that maybe we shouldn't have even called that 110 for. I think that's a spot where you either raise or fold, and we decided to go for the raise there because I was thinking the player didn't have a very good hand. We don't get to see his hand, so we don't know what he has, but there's just no way we can call an all in there with queen 10 because even if he was bluffing with a hand like a suited ace or something, we are still behind. Here we are on the mandatory straddle with 8-6 offsuit. Our opponent raises to 24 and a player called in between us. We decided to go for a call here only for 16 more, hoping that maybe we flop something against them and maybe we just get lucky. It's a bad call, not a call that you should make often. I think my emotions were getting to me a little bit after that previous hand when I tried to raise with the queen 10. We flop decent here. We get middle pair, and it checks through on the flop. When the queen comes in on the turn, we don't like it, and this opponent is going to choose to bet for 40. I don't know why I call here. This is a bad play. I should have just folded, but I'd choose to call here, maybe thinking that maybe if he has ace-king or something, he's just trying to stab at it here and steal the pot. He doesn't like when the heart comes in on the river, so he's going to choose to check here, and I'm thinking maybe I'm good, but he flips over ace-queen. Weird there. Maybe he should have gone for thin value, but he seemed to be afraid of the flush there, so we kind of get away cheaply. I don't think I would have called there anyways, but I didn't think I should have called there on the turn, so looking back at it, maybe I would have called the river and lost some more money being stupid. So that was a bad hand for us. That's a stupid hand, a hand that we shouldn't have been in the first place, and we just bled away some of our chips, which we don't really want to do, especially being in the hole here. We're in for 800 in this session, and we already lost 800 previously in this session, so we're getting down to the lower end of our stack. We're down about 1,200 right now, and it's not looking too good. We got ace-jack here, and our opponent raised to 24. We decided to raise it to 96, and we're going to scoop up some dead money there to build our stack back up over 500. So moving in the right direction here, but we're still pretty down. We need to make a lot of money back, especially just to win that 100 for the day. I hate how this keeps starting out and that we keep having to get into flips. We've been pretty lucky with our flips, actually, during this series. But, again, we're only trying to win 100, and going all in for 800 and stuff like that is not really what we want to be doing pre-flop a lot. that's the scenario that keeps coming out, and so we keep getting either down or we're winning very fast. So it's interesting. I think it's because of the stakes we're playing at. We're playing at 248, so maybe we need to lower the stakes, and so we could play for a little bit better play and play for longer. But, I mean, it's been working out. We're 10 days in. Today's day 11, and we've been winning, so I don't know why we'd change up the stakes, but it is tough when we get down this much early and we're just trying to win 100, but we've been able to battle back every single day, so let's see how we can do for the rest of the day here. So we have 6-3 of spades here on the flop. The spades came in, but we checked it to him, and we're going to bet the turn here, and he's going to call. When the river comes in, another spade, we hit our flush, so we like it. We choose to go for a sizing of about 102. We don't want to go too big, and he is going to think it over, and he is going to call, so we're going to get a good value bet in there on the river and scoop up a nice pot there to help us build our stack back up. He had king 4, so kind of a strange call. He had top pair with a weak kicker on a draw heavy board, so we get a nice pot there, and we are back to almost 700, so we're down about 900 right now. Then here we are in middle position. We got 9-10 suited. We opt to go for the call because a lot of people have been raising pre-flop off of our 24, just kind of bullying us around. So we decided to go for a slimmer play here and just check. Just call. And then when the flop comes, we have 2 overpairs. He checks to us, and we're just going to check it back. When the jack comes in on the turn, we have a gut shot to an 8. So we're going to see what he does here, and when he checks, we're just going to check back, hoping that maybe we hit that on the river. We don't want to get the pot too big. And we hit a 9 on the river, so we get a pair, and he's going to think it over, and he is going to just check it over to us. When we hit the 9 on the river, we think maybe we could bet, but we just check for showdown, and we see that he had 10-5. So we were beaten till the river, and we get a pot of 38 there. So could have bet. Maybe he would have raised. I don't know. I was playing kind of scared there. I've been getting raised a lot today, and the guys have been doing a good job of putting me in tough spots, and I've had to really think a lot, and I haven't really been making the right plays here, so I was playing kind of scared there. Obviously, we didn't have the best hand there or even the top pair, but nice to win a pot there. Here we are in the big blind with 9-5 of clubs. The opponent to the right of us is going to raise it up to 32 here. A lot of the times when they do this, they're just trying to steal the blinds, especially in this online platform. It's a lot different than playing in person, and so if you guys are questioning some of my plays here, I've kind of got to adapt to playing this online platform. And again, I play very different in person. I play a lot tighter, but here players are just playing at home. You know, they're playing kind of looser and trying to just bully guys around with money. So here we are, and we bet on the flop, and our opponent called pretty quickly, and we're going to continue to try to barrel here. On the turn, we bet 88, and he's going to call again. And then when the king comes in on the river, he is going to lead bet here and put us into a tough spot for 264. We were bluffing. We were going to continue firing the third barrel. He's going to donk bet here and put us in a tough spot. There's not really much we could do. We could try to raise to get him to go all in, but it's just not a good play, so we're going to have to lay it down. Our bluff gets called there, and it's unfortunate that we just punted away some chips after we just won a couple decent pots. So we're back down, and we are looking grim here. We got 563 left in our stack, but we pick up queens, so hoping to win some money here. We raise it up to 24, and we got hope that maybe our straddle will do something wacky here. Maybe he'll call, maybe he'll raise. But after thinking for a little bit, he is going to just flick in the call. So we get to see a flop. So we're happy here, except for when it comes king high. We don't like it, so we check it back when he checks it to us. And the 9 comes in on the turn. He checks it again, and we're just going to check it back, thinking he probably doesn't have a king here, or if he does, it's pretty weak, but we don't want to get chips in there with a king being on the board. So make a pretty disciplined play there. Maybe could have got him to fold. He didn't have a pair, so we check it down to the river, and we're going to win that pot up, and our queens are going to hold. So here we are, middle position. We got a middling hand here. We got Jack 10 offsuit, and when it gets around to us and it's just 8, we could choose to raise here, or we could choose to check. And after thinking for a little bit with how today's session has gone, instead of raising, we're just going to call here. The the players, like I said, have been putting me in tough spots, especially when I've raised to 24. Like, maybe if I raise to 24, this guy re-raises me higher. So we're happy to go see a flop for 40 being in position here with this kind of hand, and we love it. We hit Jack, Jack 7, so we hit trips here, and our opponent's going to bet, and we're going to call here. When the king comes in on the turn, I think that card kind of scared him, or maybe he didn't like the 2 jacks on the flop, and he is going to slow it down here. He's going to check to me, and we are going to bet. Looking back, maybe I should have just checked here and maybe gave him some rope to bet on the river, but there is hearts on the board, so maybe he was on a draw or something like that. But when he folds there, I'm thinking he probably wasn't on the draw, and we are going to scoop that pot there to get us back moving in the right direction after our bluff earlier. And here we are with 9s. We're going to raise it up to 24. Happy to play here because we got a good pocket pair, and everybody's going to fold. So we'll steal up that dead money, get us back to almost halfway to even, with our pot being at 720 and halfway to even being 800. We're in the straddle here. We got 10-5 of hearts, and we are going to wait for it to get around to us. This is a good hand, not the best hand. It's suited, and they're kind of close, not really the best. But when he just raises to 24, it's only 16 more to call, especially with the player in between. So we are going to make a call. Maybe a little bit of a loose call here, especially being out of position. But we flop top pair on the flop, and we checked it in flow to him, and it's going to check through. The turn's going to come a 6. Doesn't really change much. No draws have came in. So we got top pair, and we don't have the best kicker, but we are going to stab at it here for 45, and the button's going to think, and he is going to fold. And then the player here in the big blind, he's going to think it over for a second, and he is going to decide that 45 is not enough. He's going to raise to 102. With having top pair here on a draw-heavy board like this, we're going to decide to call. We do realize he could have a 3 here, so it is a little scary. So when he checks on the river, we're just going to check it back. We don't want to put in chips and have him raise us with only having top pair with a bad kicker. And we're going to see that our 10 is good. He hit 2 pair on the river, but we had 10s and 3s since the 3s were on the board. So that river card actually didn't really change much for him. And we are going to move on to the next hand. So we're over halfway back here. We got 872. Player's going to raise to 24, and then another player's going to raise to 72. Having ace-queen here, being out of position, this player's going to raise to 160. We say, screw it. Maybe all these guys are full of it. We go all in. We're happy to, maybe just steal this dead money. We don't see that. This player has kings, but we flop 2 queens, and we just get super lucky there. I mean, we could have hit an ace. It's a flip kind of hand. We got ace-queen. He's got kings. It's a classic flip. If we hit an ace, we win, but they give it to us the long way, and we hit 2 queens. So we double up there, and we get our stack over 1,600 to 1,782. So we're going to win 182 on the session. We hit some luck there at the end, but we got unlucky earlier on, and that's why we were down in that hole. So thanks for watching. Come back again tomorrow for day 12, and everybody enjoy Thanksgiving.